In the new week, several newspapers released photos of Gal Gadot, some of her alone, and some of her and Eric walking together. The title is Girlfriend or Heroine, and Gal Gadot's resume has been completely ripped off in the accompanying text, and I have to admire the work efficiency of these paparazzi. It is estimated that in a few days, there will be paparazzi to squat on her, and Eric gave her a wake-up call and told her to adapt to the life of a star in advance. In the office of MGM and Charlie Cooper, several people are gathering here for a small meeting. Eric, how's the script going? I finalized the outline more than a month ago, and last week the first draft was delivered to me with some comments, and I am currently working on it. Charlie Cooper nodded. Then speed up the progress. I am communicating with the Ministry of Defense here, and it is estimated that there will be news within this week, but we must also be prepared to come up with what chips to impress the military. Money is only one aspect, but it's not the most important thing, after all. An F-22 is more expensive than our total investment in films, so we need a killer feature that can make the military tempted. Everyone talked about it, but the U.S. military in 2002, it is not an exaggeration to say that the world is invincible, and they discussed for a long time, and finally their eyes converged on Eric. You have to come up with a solution. Eric pondered for a moment. There are two weapons in this world that are the most powerful. One is money, and the other is public opinion. If you can't make a fuss about money, then you can only do it from public opinion. I want to ask you a question. Although 911 has been a year, do you think the impact of this incident is over? Bordeaux shook his head instantly. I don't think so. No. Yes, definitely not. Before 911, we always thought we lived in the safest country. But after 9/11, no American would ever think that way, that someone could attack us, even directly on our homeland, and even young people like me felt panic many times. Volvo agrees. Young people are okay. Middle-aged and elderly people like me feel the most profound. If you look closely, you will find that the gap between people seems to have increased, which is a manifestation of inner influence. And the war on terror against Afghanistan has been going on for a year, but it didn't work out well. We didn't catch bin Laden. The EU is supporting us. Many countries are supporting us, but it seems to have turned into a tug-of-war there. People call it the graveyard of empires. That's right. The influence of 911 is not so easy to eliminate, and the masses have also questioned the army. This is our breakthrough. We have to win public opinion. Eric said, firmly. Tell the Department of Defense that Transformers will show the positive image of the U.S. military to the greatest extent, and there will be enough footage and enough time. There will be no problems that will damage the image of the army, and the film will highlight their heroes and sacrifices so that the audience will applaud them after watching it. And there will be a 911-like plane crashing into a building, but we're going to win in the end, and the military will play a key role in the process. In a word, this is a movie, but it is also an army propaganda film, and it is a propaganda film that is shown all over the world. After listening to Eric's idea, the others agreed without thinking about it, and this entry point was simply too right. Charlie Cooper also smiled. Eric's idea is very good, just follow this. And the other thing is the choice of special effects companies, and at present, Industrial Light and Magic and Weta Digital have given quotations. Industrial Light and Magic was charging $60,000 per second. Weta Digital was charging $70,000 per second, and we needed to make a choice. Before anyone else could say anything, Eric had already made a straightforward decision. Choosing Weta Digital, there's no doubt about it. Production manager Hu Liu frowned. But the price of Industrial Light and Magic is lower, and Transformers involves too many special effects shots, and the final film may exceed 1,000. Even if each shot is calculated on a 3-second basis, the estimated budget will be overrun, and I'm worried about whether $100 million will meet the needs of these Autobots. The first thing a producer thinks about is cost, and Eric understands him, but as MGM's first blockbuster and the first film he will direct, he demands excellence. Almost everyone in the film and television industry knows that although Industrial Light and Magic is more famous and has been established for a longer time, it is better to simply compare the technical level and Weighted Digital, which is the last. The reason is also very simple. Weighted Digital is a company founded by Peter Jackson. As a big director from New Zealand, the New Zealand government strongly supports his company. I don't know how much the annual subsidy is. Who let The Lord of the Rings take New Zealand's tourism industry away? Relying on generous state subsidies, Weighted Digital's salary package is the highest in the industry. It gradually attracted a large number of special effects talents, and even the employees of Industrial Light and Magic frequently changed jobs, and George Lucas even complained about it. And the wealthy Weighted Digital not only poaches people, but is stronger than ILM in equipment, and it is said that their rendering farm is more than twice as large as ILM, but this should be a joke, not so exaggerated. Anyway, in the current special effects industry, Industrial Light and Magic has been going downhill, while Weighted Digital has been rushing upward, and it is self-evident who to choose. Eric said, "Julio, I know you're worried, but special effects are the soul of Transformers. What the plot? What the hero and heroine, those are secondary. What the audience wants to see is a group of steel robots beating each other. You can save money in other areas, but you can't save money in this area, and you even have to add it. I hope you understand." Julio wanted to say something, but his father interrupted directly. "I also tend to Weighted Digital, or don't do it. Do it and do the best. This is our first blockbuster, and I want it to be successful, and I'm going to ask Peter Jackson to get a friendship price as much as I can." As he spoke, he looked at the marketing department again. "How is the contact with the company?" "Boss, we have communicated with GM, Ford, and Chrysler, and all three parties are very interested, and this is a good opportunity to show themselves better than Fast and Furious and 007. As long as the special effects are made, I'm sure they'll be scrambling to get the car over when I show it to them. In addition, engine oil, lubricants, tires, glasses, mobile phones, home appliances, and other businesses are also in contact and will give you results as soon as possible." "Okay, then everyone keep up the good work. I hope the crew can start up normally within 2 months." MGM building. Eric quietly drank the coffee in front of him, waiting for the other party to finish reading the script. And sitting across from him is director Frank Darabont, a 2-time Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay and a 1-time Best Picture nominee, and the director of The Shawshank Redemption and Miracle in the Green Mile, who is reading the script of The Walking Dead in his hand. This script was given an outline from Eric, and it took more than 2 months to polish the script, which took longer than the polishing time of the script of Transformers, and finally felt that it was almost over, and the company also contacted Darabont, and today the bald director came to the door as promised. With a long exhalation, Darabont took a long sip of coffee. He didn't like sugar. The bitter taste made the bald head look even more twisted. "It's a good script, and I love the post-apocalyptic human struggles in it, but it doesn't seem to be perfect. Frank, what do you want to do? Do you have a shooting plan? What about the start time? I wonder if MGM is in a hurry to shoot. The sooner the better. This project has been a long time in the making, and I don't want to miss out on next year's Emmys. The Oscar is the highest award for a movie, then the Emmy is the highest award for a TV series. Although the Emmy Awards are usually held in September, the entries are selected from June 1st of the previous year to May 31st of this year. In other words, if The Walking Dead wants to participate in the Emmy Awards, then it must at least start airing before May 31st next year. It's early November, and MGM has only 7 months left to go through casting, shooting, post-production, and most importantly, selling to the TV station. So the time is still very tight. Darabont pondered for a moment. "Then give me another week, and I'm going to change the script." "No, it's enriching the script. It's already great. All I can do is polish. Eric nodded. Yes. Also, how much say do I have in casting? Except for the role of Maggie Green, you have the final say in the other roles, and I trust your vision. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. A smile appeared on the face of the Drabant. This kind of investor-producer who doesn't like it, it's perfect. The two shook hands, and looking at Eric's young face, Darabont couldn't help but sigh. What a bold young man. On the other hand, he invited Jim Carrey to shoot the movie Forget Who I Am last year, and he originally planned to rely on it to hit the Oscars, and Jim Carrey also hoped to transform into a drama with this movie. But it's a pity that Jim Carrey is really addicted to drama, but the movie's word-of-mouth box office hit the streets, not to mention the Oscars, and his face is about to be scolded by film critics. And this defeat also clouded Darabont's resume, and some jobs were cancelled, which is where Hollywood is realistic. Maybe it's good to try the TV series. I hope it can help me open up a new world. In late November, Red Dragon had already been drawn, and the final global box office was less than $310 million. The Silence of the Lambs trilogy came to an end, with a total box office of $950 million, although it did not reach $1 billion, which is a bit regrettable, but it is also a perfect ending. The crew held a celebration banquet, which Eric also attended, during which they wanted to invite Anthony Hopkins to play the role of Secretary of Defense in Transformers. However, the old man was worried that the sudden change from ogre to defense minister would make the audience unable to adapt, so he refused. Eric really wanted to work with him, but Hopkins insisted on it. There is no way. I can only find another opportunity in the future. Anyway, this old man is an evergreen, and his body will still be great in 2023, and the time will be long. The Barbershop has been in theaters for a week, and the all-black starring movies are naturally not worried about the box office. Although the wind of political correctness has not yet blown as violently as more than 10 years later, and it is not as exaggerated as Black Panther 2, but the Black Buddies still entered the cinema with friends, and black movies are rare. With the help of Black Buddies, Barbershop grossed nearly $30 million in its first weekend, and the production cost of more than $8 million has already been earned. And the impact of this film on blockbusters is minimal, and if this trend continues, it is not difficult to collect a global box office of 70 or 80 million, which is a typical example of small and large. 007 Died Another Day also completed its opening weekend, and Eric represented MGM in the premiere. This is the 20th film in the 007 series and the last one by Pierce Brosnan, with the participation of Black Pearl Halle Berry and Pei Chunhua, who is well known to Chinese audiences for Gone Girl. Is familiar with these three, especially Pei Chunhua, who is only 23 years old now, the age when apples are just ripe. Eric exchanged contact information with them and agreed to work together. On the side of Transformers, the Ministry of Defense was very satisfied with the plan given by MGM, and my father also sent a lot, so after only one discussion, the military gave the green light. MGM is allowed to enter the military base for real shooting and can borrow the necessary weapons and equipment such as the main battle tanks, warplanes, and gunboats of the current U.S. military to help shoot. At the same time, the internal training video of the Army will be handed over to MGM to facilitate the post-compositing of the movie. After all, you can't really fight a war for the sake of making a movie. And MGM only needs to pay $10 million for this, which can be said to be so cheap that Grandma's house, and even a few parts of the F-22 can't be bought. The only requirement of the Ministry of Defense is that they need to review it before it is completed, and they must ensure that the positive image of the U.S. military must not be stained. Several sponsors have signed contracts, such as Nokia, which will be won by Nokia, and MGM promises to build a transformer specifically for Nokia, and the appearance time will not be less than 5 minutes. Nokia has to pay $7.5 million in advertising for this, which looks very expensive, but this is because Nokia will launch a new smartphone next year, and the combination of the two will create a hit. Weta Digital's price was also negotiated, with Peter Jackson agreeing to cut the price by $15,000 per second, in exchange for the fact that Transformers would not be released at a time that would conflict with The Lord of the Rings 3, and the two would be released at least 3 weeks apart. At the same time, the special effects of the follow-up works of the Transformers series will also be handed over to Weta Digital, and everyone will benefit each other and make money together. Peter Jackson's request is not too much, and Eric doesn't want to compete head-on with the monster of The Lord of the Rings 3 at all. After the foreshadowing of the first 2 parts, everyone knows that The Lord of the Rings 3 is going to kill all sides. Facing the hobbits, to be honest, Eric doesn't have much faith in the Autobots. While the preparations are being carried out rapidly, the audition for the actor who has been warming up for a long time has also begun. In the MGM building, the front desk lady has begun to dazzle, and countless handsome guys who don't know her know pass by in front of her eyes, and all kinds of types simply satisfy all her fantasies on the ship. Take a look at the registration board. James Franco, Ryan Gosling, Jake Gyllenhaal, Heath Ledger, Chris Evans, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ben Foster, Shia LaBeouf, Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, Tom Hardy. What exactly are movie auditions trying out? The answer is yes, but different types of movies have different emphases. If it is a literary film, then the requirements for acting skills will be raised, and acting skills can break through the limitations of appearance and help actors get out of the encirclement. For example, Anthony Hopkins, Meryl Streep, Benedict Cumberbatch, and others, their appearance is ordinary, and Wan Fu said that there are many people who are ugly, but they can conquer the director and the audience with their acting skills. On the Huaxia side, William E. Sun Honglei, Huang Bo, Gu Yu, etc. are also in this way. But if it's a commercial film or a popcorn blockbuster, acting skills are not so important, of course. It's not a blank slate. You still have to understand the basic skills, so Eric arranged for Godot to study in advance. In this kind of commercial blockbuster, the director's criteria for selecting actors are more focused on appearance and temperament, and to fit the image of the characters. The campus film must be a handsome man and a beautiful woman with a big bucktooth face, no matter how good the acting skills are, who will watch it. We are not an ugly Betty. Megan Fox, the original heroine of Transformers, Leon Yun of Xingye's Mermaid, and the trio of Twilight, which Eric has ordered to expand the script, are all this routine. As for the background, of course it's the most powerful of the 3. Otherwise, you ask Gwyneth Paltrow and Xiang Zhua, and you'll understand. Since that press conference, MGM has been calling for auditions from all over the world, receiving more than 3,400 resumes in 1 month. This is all delivered by actors. If the audition is open to amateurs, I am afraid that the number will become tens of millions. And more than 3,000 people can't all be interviewed, so they can't do it so tired. So the first round of looking at the image and resume, this level has been brushed down to 90% of people. Then it's a selection process, and finally a report to Eric's desk, where he finalizes who can audition. After some screening, only about 50 of the more than 3,000 people remained, and then these lucky people were sent character biographies and some script clips to facilitate audition preparation. Of course, not all of the more than 50 are lucky. In fact, more than 40 are related households, all of which are stuffed in by my father's friends and acquaintances, so the background is the most dicked. Even if these people don't want to use it, they still have to give the opportunity to audition. Otherwise, they won't be able to save face. It's just that after the interview, let people go back and wait for news, and then send a phone call or email a few days later and say that it is not appropriate, without saying the specific reason. The matter is over and everyone will meet in the same way, ha ha ha. In a large room, Tom Hardy sat in the corner, watching the people who were still walking in one after another, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help twitching. He saw James Franco, the little student who became popular a few months ago because of his participation in Spider-Man, although the other party is not a first line now, but he is also a popular fried chicken, and the pressure is a bit great. Then he saw Jake Gyllenhaal, a child actor, and last year he was nominated for the Independent Spirit Award for Best Actor for Illusion of Death, and the pressure doubled. Next walked in was Heath Ledger, the same child star debut, who was shortlisted for the Best Film Actor award at the third Teen Choice Awards last year with Holy War Night, and the pressure was huge. Then I saw Ryan Gosling not far away, and it is said that he only acted in his first film last year and was immediately nominated for an Independent Spirit Award. Wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, Tom Hardy suddenly felt his heart pounding. He had this feeling before, and that was when he went to audition for Band of Brothers and Black Hawk Down. Luckily, he got a small role in both works, but that's all about his acting career. Those two characters weren't enough to help him open up the situation, and you wouldn't even need a microscope to find him in Black Hawk Down. But the actor who is going to audition today is the actor of Transformers, and there are so many competitors that I am scary and I am afraid. At this time, another person walked in, and when he saw him, Tom Hardy hurriedly stood up and waved, James, come here." James McAvoy heard someone shouting his name, followed the voice, and found Tom Hardy, who also played a small role in Band of Brothers. Both of them are British actors. They met when they participated in this drama, and they usually chat occasionally. They are not buddies, but they're also acquaintances. "James, it's great to see a friend here. I'm so nervous," Tom Hardy whispered. "Me too. I was very happy when I received the audition notice. I flew to Los Angeles the day before yesterday, but now Jean-Aimé also had a sighing expression. I don't feel like I have a good chance of getting a role. How can I beat James Franco?" Don't be discouraged. James Franco is indeed the most famous, but if you only look at fame, MGM won't audition, will you? Yes, but I'm still nervous and my heart is pounding. Relax. Think about what you learned in school. Take a deep breath. "Who?" Jean-Aimé waved her hand. "Michael, come here, I'm here." Seeing so many people waiting for auditions, Michael Fassbender couldn't help but gasp when he walked in, and just as he was looking for a place to cat, he heard someone call his name. Turned his head and saw that it was James McAvoy and his little brother Tom Hardy, whom he met during the filming of Band of Brothers. As if he had found the organization in an instant, he walked quickly towards the two of them. Although everyone is a competitor, at this moment, he still hopes that a warm little gang will accept him. It may not be warm, just resist the wind. He is cold. Sitting down next to Jean-Aimé, the French shark swallowed his saliva and whispered, "It's so depressing. Don't you all speak?" Jean-Aimé raised her chin. Whoever speaks loudly will be the center of attention, which is not a good thing at this time. Looking at Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Heath Ledger, the two of them are also whispering. "Who's that guy? He's in good shape. It's like it's Chris Evans, and I saw one of his movies last year." Male lead. "Yes. Don't say it, I'm more nervous." In the audition room, Eric sat in the middle, with several people sitting on the left and right, one of whom was a man and a woman, who were his partners. The woman's name is Patty Jenkins, 31 years old this year, and she holds the position of assistant director. It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of her name, you must have heard or seen her work. A Female Devil is the movie that pushed Charlize Theron to the Oscar Queen. A Wonder Woman is the one that Gal Gadot will star in the future. Not long ago, Patty Jenkins took the script of The Female Devil to pull investment around the market and then was caught by Judy. I have to say that Judy, a chick with a very vicious vision for choosing scripts, saw horror before and now brings The Female Devil. Eric made a direct decision, promising her that she would invest in the film and allow her to direct, on the condition that he would be the assistant director of Transformers for Eric. Patty Jenkins signed the contract very happily, and it took more than half a year to change tens of millions of investments, which is worth it. The man's name is Neil Blomkamp, 23 years old, not very old, and he holds the position of assistant director. He is best known for his work such as District 9 and Super Chop Eye, and his current ability is certainly not as good as that of Patty Jenkins, but he has no problem working as an assistant director. Looking at the time, Eric said, "Let's get started." Soon, a big boy with a face Leon Light walked in, said hello without humility or arrogance, and did not see a trace of nervousness. Although he was only 23 years old, he had been debuting for 10 years, and similar scenes had been experienced too many times. Just looking at the looks, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is qualified, and playing a 17 or 18-year-old student will not have a sense of disobedience, and Patty Jenkins and others put a tick on the form. Eric didn't talk nonsense. Today was a busy day, and he got straight to the point. "Joseph, have you read the script? What kind of person do you think Sam is?" This is almost a mandatory question, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt has been prepared for it for a long time, and he doesn't want to blurt it out. "I think Sam was a bit of a nerdy high school student on the surface. He wasn't prominent in school, he didn't have a girlfriend, and no one believed the story about his grandfather, so I think he was hungry for approval at heart. But at the same time, he's brave and able to step up at critical moments, so there's courage and blood buried deep in him. When Bumblebee was arrested, he cared about his companions, which showed that he valued camaraderie." Joseph Gordon-Levitt gave a satisfactory answer, and Eric continued to ask, "If you were asked to play Sam, what would you do?" "I will show the character according to my understanding and follow the director's requirements to show it in the style of the film. The role is interesting but not complicated, and I think I can do it." "Very good. You look confident. I like actors who have confidence. That's a reflection of a sense of conviction. Let's audition. Neil, you cooperate." Clip of the two trying out is a clip of Sam threatening to release people from District 7 with the help of the Autobots. This is a deliberate choice by Eric. Like, that kind of campus family daily drama is not difficult to embarrass Seth. He is used to it, and this scene wants to show Sam's arrogance. He must perform that feeling of revenge. A few minutes later, when the performance ended, Eric and Patty Jenkins looked at each other, then looked at Steve with a calm expression. Joseph Gordon-Levitt couldn't help jumping in his heart. This kind of bridge does belong to his weak area. Heath Ledger is better at it, but he still has confidence in himself, which is the confidence given to him by more than 10 years of acting experience. However, immediately after that, Eric threw out a bombshell question. "Joseph, you should be studying at Columbia University by now." "Yes, I'm a sophomore." "Then the question is, the filming schedule of Transformers is very tight. I will not allow actors to take time off. Can your studies be delayed for 3 months?" This question is very realistic and fatal. You must know that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is not acting, but French poetry, history, and literature. Whether you can keep up with your studies if you are delayed is a big question, and whether the school allows it is a big question. The door opened, and everyone's eyes fell on Joseph Gordon-Levitt's face, trying to read the result from his expression, but they were disappointed, and the other party looked calm. Heath Ledger, a good friend who has worked on 10 Things I Hate About You, came over and patted him on the shoulder. "How is it, brother?" The two walked to no one's place before Joseph Gordon-Levitt spoke. "Heath, I think I messed up. You have to come on. This audition is very aggressive." "Is it hard?" "Not necessarily hard, but he'll make it difficult for you." "Who?" "That MGM vice president, Eric Cooper." "Eric Cooper? He's supposed to be the producer, right? The director?" "I don't know. There were only a few people in the room, and I didn't see the director." Heath Ledger looked at the audition room suspiciously, and then remembered that Transformers never seemed to have been released to the public. This kind of thing should be determined before casting, first the script and then the director and finally the actors, because the selection of actors is also the director's task. If the director does not like the actors, how can the effect of the director be good? In short, good luck, brother. Inside the audition room, after Joseph Gordon-Levitt leaves, Patty Jenkins looks at Eric. Eric, you're very aggressive today. What's wrong? Eric asked rhetorically. Yes. Another interviewer in his 40s interjected. It's not too obvious. Among the younger generation in Hollywood, Joseph is still good. It's just that you seem to have deliberately picked that passage for him to perform, but this scene is actually just a small episode in the movie. It doesn't matter. Don't you like him? Eric took a sip of water. No, I don't dislike anyone. The people who can come to this level are the best, but they are good at different fields. Joseph, he's great, but I don't think his temperament is a good fit for Transformers. Don't you feel it? The temperament of a literary and artistic youth in him. The most suitable for him now is actually a small, fresh genre movie on campus or in the city. If it develops in this direction, I think his future is bright. And Transformers needs Leon Light's boys, whose temperaments can't be combined. After listening to Eric's explanation, everyone couldn't help but agree. Some people are born with a literary face, and everyone's first impression when they see him is that he is so melancholy. Such an actor is naturally the most suitable for that type. Eric, did you really study finance before? Why do you ask? Pierce Sr. smiled and said, I've been in this industry for decades, and I've auditioned at least a few thousand actors. But if I were asked to analyze what route an actor should take, I would never dare to say, and I don't think many people would dare to make up their minds. Even though Joseph Gordon-Levitt has debuted for more than 10 years, I am afraid that even he has not figured out his position. But you can see where he is, and you ought to have told Joseph what he just said. Eric, it's a rare ability that is usually only possessed by the top directors and producers. Knowing that the other party was patting on the back, Eric asked, do you think I have the potential to become a great director? Ha ha ha, why not? Transformers is good. Maybe you can use it to practice your skills. Interesting proposition, you said it. After Joseph Gordon-Levitt left, the second person who walked in made Eric frown, and it was none other than Shia LaBeouf, the original star of Transformers. Eric had just said that he didn't dislike anyone, which was of course a lie, and Shia LaBeouf was the one he hated the most. It's just that this guy's agent is quite familiar with his father, so although he is only 16 years old and a real high school student, he can only let him enter the interview. Since this guy has disappeared for a long time before the crossing, many people have forgotten about him, but he is definitely called the troublemaker king of Hollywood, and Ezra Miller has to kneel down and shout at his predecessors when he sees him. When Shia LaBeouf was 19 years old, he dared to threaten his neighbors with a knife, and he was lucky not to be hit by an American-style family. When he became popular because of Transformers, he floated up even more, became addicted to alcohol, and completely became a drunken minxie, and he never left his hand for a long time. First, he was arrested for drunkenly breaking into a Chicago pharmacy chain and trying to implement a $0 purchase. After 2 months of non-stopping, he illegally smoked in a public place in Burbank, refused to appear after receiving a court summons, and did not appoint a lawyer, and then was offered a reward of $1,000 by the court as a wanted man, and finally he was forced to pay the fine under the pressure of public opinion. This was followed by a drunk driving in which his arm was grazed by an Optimus Prime, resulting in a broken arm. That's why there is a scene in Transformers 2 where Sam injured his arm, and that's because Michael Bay was forced to change the script, and the crew can't be delayed because of one person. Then he complained that Spielberg was old. Raiders of the Lost Ark 4 couldn't be on the stage, and starring in this movie was simply the biggest mistake. And he was able to star in Transformers precisely because of Spielberg's support. This is not over, and then during the rehearsal of the stage play Orphan on Broadway, he followed his fellow actor Alec for a month, which scared the other party to call the police, and the crew fired him. In 2012, it was another exciting news on the set of Lawless. A drunk Shia LaBeouf attacked Tom Hardy, knocked Tom Hardy unconscious, and sent him to the hospital. His reputation has become stinky, perhaps because no one is looking for him to make movies, so he has taken up the job of director again. Filmed a short film and won an award, but as soon as the reviews improved, it was exposed to plagiarism, and then made a drone to apologize to the original author, but it also flew to the wrong address. It wasn't until 2019 that Shia LaBeouf's life reached its peak, and he wrote and directed the film Baby Boy about his childhood. In the movie, his father can only be described as a villain, and the audience understands the pain caused by his original family. Just when the audience began to sympathize with him, a reversal appeared, and he personally admitted on the show that the plot was all fake and made up by himself. In order to get his father's consent, he also used the fake script to fool his father into signing it and made his father 1,000 people, which is really too cheating and tidy. The list here is only some of the bad things that Shia LaBeouf has done, in addition to domestic violence against his girlfriend, beating a homeless man, and other evil deeds. Ezra Miller is a little fresh compared to him. Such a neurotic, Eric will not use him unless he is also crazy. Shia LaBeouf. Do you know the story of the Transformers? Yes, I watched it on TV. Name me a few Autobots and Decepticons. Shia LaBeouf was stunned for a moment. What kind of subject is this? In fact, he has never seen Transformers at all, and he only learned something about it for the audition. Immediately stumbled. Optimus Prime, Megatron, and... Eric snorted. You don't seem to understand that cheating on the producer is not a good habit. Shia LaBeouf hurriedly tried to explain, but Eric didn't give him a chance at all and continued to ask, "Can you drive proficiently?" Of course, this question also pleases him, because California law requires minors to be at least 16 years old to apply for a driver's license. But it doesn't mean that you can drive on the road after taking a driver's license at the age of 16. There are strict restrictions, such as not being able to drive at night. You must be accompanied by a parent to drive, and you can't pull people other than your parents. Because of many restrictions, although there are many people who have taken the driver's license at the age of 16, there are not many who actually drive on the road, and the transportation in Los Angeles is convenient, and students generally rely on public transportation. Faced with this question, Shia LaBeouf could only try his best to explain, "Sir, I have already taken my papers, and I can practice well. This is not." Eric interrupted again, "But we don't have time to practice. We only have 2 months to shoot, do you know?" Several interviewers next to him were speechless. You just told Joseph Gordon-Levitt to shoot for 3 months. Why did it suddenly change? Seeing Shia LaBeouf's incoherent speech, Eric said expressionlessly, "Of course, what I just said is secondary. Let's try the play first." Shia LaBeouf was stunned again, but he was roaring in his heart. It doesn't matter what you say so seriously, it scares Lao Tzu. But at this moment, his mood was in turmoil. How could he still enter the state? A simple performance was stuck 3 times, and finally walked out dejectedly. Eric gave him a few words of encouragement, saying that he had a bright future, and that this time he was just playing out of shape. Shia LaBeouf couldn't help but have the illusion that this producer is not bad. After he walked out, Eric said, "See? I'm too young to bear the pressure, and I can't stand a few questions, so how can I deal with a formal shooting?" Several interviewers were speechless again, and you were told all the good and bad things, and it was the other party's fault for co-authoring. Outside, and seeing Shia LaBeouf about to cry, everyone couldn't help but chuckle, although he was a nobody, but it wasn't so miserable. The interviewer was too ruthless. After calming down, James McAvoy got up from his seat, while Tom Hardy and Michael Fassbender cheered him on. "You can, James. This is the best opportunity. You can take it. You are Sam."
I'm Sam. I'm Sam.
Doing self-hypnosis and taking deep breaths, James McAvoy walked into the audition room. And the moment they saw him come in, several interviewers knew that he was eliminated. The first is the height. Gal Gadot is 175 centimeters tall, but the British son in front of him is only 170 centimeters, which is embarrassing. What's more serious is temperament, and his temperament is more literary than that of Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The slender eyebrows and the big eyes of the lying silkworm, with the shriveled thin lips, coupled with the small mouth, make it easy to match the configuration of the male protagonist of a literary film. If he is willing to sacrifice, the heroine is not impossible to play. In short, it is completely incompatible with the looks of the American hero, and Eric will definitely not be satisfied. It didn't take long for James McAvoy to walk out with a tangled expression, and Tom Hardy and Michael Fassbender hurried up to inquire about the situation. "How's it going, James?" "Failed, and he explicitly told me that it wasn't suitable, but then asked me if I would like to play another role." "What role?" "A supporting role with few plots, but very important. The kind that will have close-ups and lines, is not cannon fodder anyway." Hearing this, Tom Hardy and Fassbender understood why he was entangled, but the auditioning actor got a role that he didn't know the number of men. Can he not be entangled? "James, are you going to take it?" "Why not? With my current reputation, something is better than nothing." Not long after Jean Imay's audition failed, Tom Hardy and Michael Fassbender were also eliminated. The former is not a muscular hunk like Bane now, but a handsome shape, which belongs to the audience at a glance, and they know that this kid is not the kind of image of a good person, and he doesn't match Sam. And Eric remembers that young Tom Hardy has always had problems with alcohol and drug addiction, and now it is estimated that while he is still in treatment, it is impossible to choose him as the leading actor. The same is true of Michael Fassbender, who is handsome, but whose face is rebellious and stubborn at first glance. Especially when frowning, it always gives people a feeling of bitterness and hatred, which is suitable for Magneto, but obviously does not match Sam's enthusiasm Leon Light. Of course, they are not without gain. Eric gave them the role of American GI, the kind with lines and cameras. Jean Imay is not suitable for wearing military uniforms, and Eric gives him the role of a computer master, which fits his temperament. And these two men are more suitable for wearing military uniforms, especially Fassbender, and Eric can already imagine the hideous look on his face when he shuttles through the battlefield. At this point, the British trio of Band of Brothers died en masse. In the audition room, Eric looked at James Franco in front of him. He is not the controversial Fu Lon Lon now, but he is also the most famous among the people who came to audition today. "James, give me a side face, that's good. Frown slightly and let me see, it's okay. Now laugh a little." James Franco smiled slightly, and the breath of a rich boy on his face couldn't be stopped, but Sam's family background was actually very ordinary. Eric frowned. "James, take it easy. Grow the corners of your mouth a little. I need you to laugh happily and let the sound of ha-ha ring." "Okay." James Franco nodded, readjusting his expression, and then he gave people a cold feeling. Then he opened his mouth and laughed, but it seemed to be a little stronger, and it turned into a smirk. Several interviewers shook their heads slightly in their hearts, because from James Franco, they saw the common problems of young actors, especially those who are red and handsome. These actors know in their hearts that they are very handsome, and they know which part of them is the most handsome, so they always show them intentionally or unintentionally, and try to hide their shortcomings. It's right to do it, and it's human nature, but after a long time, that temperament takes shape, and it's difficult to correct it in a short time. After examining his body and temperament, Eric asked, "What do you think you can bring to the film?" "There are a lot. I will obey any arrangement of the director. I can endure hardships. I can personally go into battle in any scene. There will definitely be a lot of blasting scenes in the movie. If the director wants to be more realistic, I can do without a stand-in. I am confident that Sam will be portrayed well and presented to fans as a popular male protagonist." The answer was great. Everyone was satisfied, and everyone liked an obedient and responsible actor. When they walked out of the audition room, everyone waiting saw the smile on the corner of James Franco's mouth, and they all felt nervous and secretly said that it was not good. Then Jake Gyllenhaal walked out and left without saying a word, recalling what Eric had just said. Then there was Ben Foster, who didn't show any disappointment on his face, which was not surprising, because he didn't have a strong desire to win. Has been acting in TV series all these years, and he is not famous, especially his girlfriend Kirsten Dunst, who became popular because of her appearance in Spider-Man, gave him a taste of the gap. With an unremarkable acting career, failure and blows again and again have long worn out his will, he has long felt that he is not suitable for this path. Recently, he has been quarreling frequently with his girlfriend, and he has been very depressed and has no motivation. He just submitted his resume with the mentality of trying it out. Fortunately, it was not bad, and I got a small role as an American GI. After Ben Foster left, the auditions continued. There were fewer and fewer people waiting, and more people left in disappointment, until only Heath Ledger and Chris Evans were left on the scene. Inadvertently, the two of them looked up at the same time, their eyes intertwined, although they didn't know each other, but there were only the two of them left in the huge room, and it seemed a little embarrassing not to do something. So, both of them smiled at the same time, but fortunately Chris Evans was called at this time, which ended the somewhat embarrassing scene. Inside the audition room, the others gradually figured out Eric's routine, and he seemed familiar with the young actors, and he always made all kinds of demands on their strengths and weaknesses. And it can be clearly felt that he doesn't have a good impression of several of them, and the questions are very targeted and aggressive. He was very tolerant of several of them, such as Jake Gyllenhaal. Eric gave a lot of pertinent advice and was friendly to the Band of Brothers trio. As for Ryan Gosling, who has just left, a newcomer who has debuted for 2 or 3 years, he is also very tolerant, allowing the other party to fully show his characteristics, and his temperament is indeed suitable for the role of Sam. Of course, there are disadvantages, such as a slightly long chin, but it is already very good in this audition. At this moment, the door opened again, and a tall and handsome boy Leon walked in and introduced himself politely. Looking at Mr. Tao, who was only 21 years old in front of him and still had a green and restrained look on his face, Eric couldn't help but smile slightly. "Chris, relax. Don't be so nervous. This is just an audition, not an interrogation." There was a light laugh in the room, and the atmosphere eased a lot for a moment, and Chris Evans relaxed. "The interviewer is very good. Why are those people sad?" While muttering. In his heart, the young American team cooperated with Eric to do different movements. The subsequent audition was also smooth sailing, because in the past 2 years, all the roles he has played are high school students, and he is simply handy about this kind of role. After going through the basic process, several interviewers nodded secretly. With a matching temperament and handsome appearance, he was a strong contender for Sam. Suddenly, Eric got up from his seat, walked up to Chris Evans amid the bewildered gaze of everyone, and circled around him a few times. Then he approached the latter's astonished gaze, pinched his chin, patted him on the abdomen and chest, and then let go back to his seat after a brief pause. "I'm sorry, Chris. I don't mean anything. It's just that if you want to get the role of Sam, you need to work harder." Chris Evans was shocked, combined with Eric's action just now, and then think about his handsome face. "No, is he gay? What's the matter? This is an A-grade production. This is Hollywood. You should have realized Chris a long time ago. As long as you close your eyes, you will definitely be able to." Gritting his teeth, Chris Evans struggled to say, "Whatever you want me to do, as long as you open your mouth, sir." "It's not that complicated. You're in too good shape. You're too strong. Sam isn't that kind of person. I need you to lose weight. You have to say goodbye to the muscles you've worked so hard to get that will make your wide chin narrow. That's Sam." Hearing The young American team immediately breathed a sigh of relief, and the mood was really up and down. In the audition scenes in the past 2 years, the director has made him gain muscle, and he always plays some big guys, and he is the first to meet him to lose muscle. It's painful to keep in shape, but it's blissful to destroy it. With a smile on his lips, the young American team walked out of the audition room. The last audition actor stood in front of him, the Heath Ledger who was not crazy and could not survive. A clown, who made him completely godly, the kind of expressiveness that fascinated and numbly the scalp made Christian Bale breathless. He completely portrays a clown who is a psychopath, a criminal, a child, an artist, and a philosopher, with a creepy and a detachment in the creepy. In the end, he became the ultimate freak bred by Gotham, and even ascended to the highest place in the villain pantheon. In Nolan's Batman trilogy, Batman can defeat Master Ninja and Bane, but he can't defeat the Joker. Eric never hides his affection for a particular actor, and Heath Ledger is undoubtedly one of them. But his temperament is really too incompatible with Transformers, and he was thinking about it when Eric got Heath Ledger's resume, but he didn't know where to put him when he thought about it, and it was an insult to play a small role in a cameo, so he could only give up regretfully. At the scene, after Heath Ledger introduced himself, Eric did not go through the audition process, but asked, "Heath, is the filming of Kelly's Party finished?" The movie has not yet been released, and Heath Ledger plays the male lead, a thief who goes from forbearance to outburst and finally dies under the oppression of society. Thinking that Eric was worried about schedule conflicts, Heath Ledger hurriedly replied, "It's already filmed. I have plenty of time." Did the process go well? I watched the trailer. Your role is very complicated. How do you usually get yourself into the play? Feeling a little strange in his heart, Heath Ledger still replied, "The dramatic conflict of Kelly's Party is indeed more complicated, and the emotional gap between the characters is very large, but my acting skills have been recognized by the director." As for the method of entering the play, in addition to studying the script and communicating, I like to lock myself in the room. The quiet environment can make me think more and can make me enter the play faster. Eric nodded. "Heath, I'm not worried about your acting skills. You have already proven yourself in The Wife of a Death Row Prisoner." Heath Ledger was a little surprised. "You've actually seen The Wife of a Death Row Prisoner?" It was a very unpopular movie, and I only played a small role. Characters are important, no matter how big or small, but I'm a little apprehensive about your approach to the play, and while a claustrophobic environment can get you into the play, it's also easier to drive people crazy. At this time, Heath Ledger couldn't understand what Eric meant. Wasn't it an audition? After chatting for a few more minutes, persuading him to bask more and get less into the horns, Eric said the result. "Heath, you don't need to audition. You're not suitable for Sam." Heath Ledger was stunned on the spot. Didn't he have a good chat just now? One will ask me about the schedule, and the other will praise my acting skills. I am happy. Why did I give a big fight in a blink of an eye and make people have a mentality? He hurriedly prayed, "Wait, sir, at least let me finish my audition before I draw conclusions, okay?" "No need, I've seen your movies. 2 Hands, 10 Things I Hate You, Patriot, Holy Night, 4 Feathers, Sin Eater. I've seen them all. I know where your drama is, even better than yourself." Looking at Eric, who read his work out like a treasure, Heath Ledger felt proud and aggrieved, and was speechless for a while. Just as he was about to leave, Eric said, "Heath, Sam really isn't for you, but I'd like to work with you if you want. It's just that time has to be delayed." At this moment, Heath Ledger felt that his brain was a little messy and asked, "What time?" "It's not decided yet. It could be the second half of next year, or the first half of the year after." "That's good. I'm fine, but I need to read the script first." "No problem. Since you can't get Sam, it's not bad to get another role, but I'm afraid the actor won't have to choose." Ended the audition in a daze. got a role in a daze, and then walked to the door of the MGM building in a daze. Heath Ledger realized that something was wrong, and he didn't even ask about the type of movie, and he didn't ask about any role. And making movies is the director's business. No matter how powerful you are as a producer, you can't replace the director in battle. Can your words count? He suddenly realized that this might be a pitfall, but with his character, he really couldn't do what he had just promised. What's more, although the person opposite is about the same age as himself, he actually holds the power of MGM, and he is a little stunned. Forget it, let's talk about it then. The audition finally ended, and everyone stretched out together. After a short break, we began to discuss the choice of the leading actor, but in fact, after screening, there were only two people who decided the final winner, Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling. And in Eric's mind, there is a more suitable candidate, Andrew Garfield. But when he looked at his resume at that time, he didn't find Garfield and thought that the people below had no vision to sift it out. After asking, I really didn't, and I don't know if this kid has entered the entertainment industry now, so I can only give up. After some discussion, it was decided to eliminate Ryan Gosling because his face was too long, and it was a bit out of place to stand with Gal Gadot, and he didn't feel like a CP. In the end, this audition successfully won one actor, one computer master, and several American GIs. Imagine a Transformers that brings together Team America, Wonder Woman, Professor X, Magneto, and Bane, and I'm quite excited. When they become famous in the future, fans will definitely scream excitedly when they go back to look through history. 3 days later, the results of the audition were announced, and at the same time, Gal Gadot's identity was also announced, which immediately caused a lot of public opinion. Why not pick James Franco? He's the best fit. Shit, James Franco's acting skills are so bad. He can't compare to Joseph at all. Joseph can dump him on the street. Is the director blind? I like Jake Gyllenhaal. What a great look at his deep eyes. He's the perfect fit. Are you crazy? Jake Gyllenhaal is so ugly. He doesn't deserve Transformers, let alone Autobots. He doesn't even deserve that Gal Gadot. Nobody likes Chris Evans? He's so handsome, and the director is so discerning. Do you see Chris Evans as handsome? He's just a big guy who can only play those stupid, and his movies have proven that. The choice of the male lead is really bad, the female lead is good, and this newcomer looks hot. Agreed. This is the only right choice made by the director. I like her nose, it's so charming.